Hey everyone, if you like to learn how to make some delicious Jamaican Escovitch fish recipe, please keep watching. Wagwan people, so today we're going to be making another Jamaican favorite, which is known as Escovitch fish. If you guys know what Escovitch fish is, typically we usually use sprat fish to make Escovitch fishes. These small fish, but you can't really find this up here. So what I usually use is American butterfish, and that's a good alternative. But today I'm going to be using some farm raised snapper fish that I got at Costco. So that was basically what was convenient for me in my area. So right now I'm just gonna cut up the onions, carrots, and the Scotch bonnet pepper, and this we're gonna make like a pickle. So for the onions, you're gonna want to cut it up in, I guess, medium slices. You don't want to cut it up too small, and I like to kind of keep the onions whole, well, not whole, but don't cut it in half. Keep it like a whole ringlet, but cut it up in like medium slices. So next we're gonna cut up the carrots, and for the carrots, I like to cut it up into small strips. What you can do if you want to omit this step with the carrots is, if you go to the supermarket, they have pre-shredded carrots, and those carrots, shredded carrot strips are really good for to use. So you can use that as well if you don't want to cut up any carrots. And I'm using two whole Scotch bonnet pepper. And this is all dependent on the amount of the pickle is dependent on how much fish you're going to make. If you're going to make a whole heap of fish, then clearly you're going to want to have way more ingredients than I am using. So it all depends on how much fish you have and how much you actually want to use in your pickle. But you want to use some really hot Scotch bonnet pepper. If you feel like the pepper is not hot, then you can use more than two pepper. But these peppers were hot, so I just needed two. I could have probably used one, but it's fine. I like heat, so I don't mind it. But you, like I said, you just want to make sure you have something hot enough, and you're just going to cut up everything. And make sure when we're cutting up Scotch bonnet pepper, use gloves, or you're going to have to wash your hands really good after, because you don't want to accidentally put your hands on your eye and then your eye is burning. So I'm just gonna set this aside for now. So the next thing that we're gonna do is just prepare a station. So right here I have my farm raised snapper fish, and I have three of them, and this is how it looks. And I have in a bowl to the right, I have a pan of water, and then I also have an empty one as well. And then I have my cutting board and the knives that I'm going to use. So this is basically my basic setup. For right now, I'm just going to um, clean the fish by scaling it. So when you go to any fish store or fish market or anything, um, you're gonna want to scale the fish after you got it. They scale it, but they don't scale it well, so you want to rescale the fish. Anytime I get any type of fish, I always do this. So always you're gonna want to scale the fish again and get off all the remainder of the scale, just because usually there's a lot of remnants. Actually, on this fish, they did scale it pretty well. I did get some scale off, but it's not as bad as other places that I've gone to. And when you scale the fish, if the scales grow a certain way, when you feel the fish is going to be smooth, that's the direction the scale is going. You want to go against the scales or against the grain. So you want to go the opposite way, and that's how you basically scale a fish. So you're going to want to do that for all the fish, and you're going to want to scale each side of the fish, the sides, and you're going to want to scale the face. And in a lot of Jamaican cooking, we always have used the head of the fish. or any Caribbean cooking. We use the head. I know a lot of Americans, they don't like to see the face or they don't like the head of the fish and they discard it, but it's really good. So keep the head, do not discard it because it's definitely has a lot of meat on it and you don't want to discard something with a lot of meat. And after you scale it, the next thing you want to do is clean the inside. So I'm just cleaning some of the remnants of the inside, and you're gonna also want to go towards where the gill is and see if everything was taken out of there because sometimes after you come from the fish market and you open the fish, there's still some gills there or something. So you just want to clean the fish really good and make sure you get out everything. So the next thing I'm gonna do after I finish scaling the fish is take off some of the fins. This is definitely optional. You don't have to do it, but this makes it easier when I fry it. So I'm just gonna cut the fins so it's a little bit shorter and all the fins on the side, I'm gonna do that as well. So I'm just gonna cut everything off. And like I said, this is optional. You don't have to do this, but I'm just choosing to do this part of the step, so you can definitely skip over this after. So now that we've finished scaling the fish, the next thing that we're gonna do is cut the fish in half. You can either fry the fish whole or you can cut it in half. This is a personal preference, so you don't have to do this. But after we cut it in half, we're gonna give the fish some slits on each. So on the after I cut it in half on the head part, I'm gonna give two slits, and on the tail, I'm gonna give about three slits. So if you left the fish whole, what you can do is just give the fish a couple slits down the side. And it doesn't matter how you give this slit, it could be horizontal or it could be slanted. So this is just basically up to you. So you're just gonna want to give the slits, and with the slits, it just helps in the frying process and helps everything to cook through thoroughly, and it's just gonna make for a crispier fish in the end. But for me, some people like to fry it until it's bone dry, but I don't, that's not how I like my fish. I like to fry it, but it's still succulent. If it's fish that's this thick, but if it's thinner, I don't mind if it's dry out just a
So
little
next,
bit. The most important step in the cooking process or in the preparation process of escovitch fish or in any type of meat is cleaning the meat. So what I am using is lemon juice to clean it. So like I said before, you can use vinegar or you can use lemon juice. So pour a couple of squirts of the lemon juice inside the water, and I'm using about cold. The water is going to be on the cold side because you don't want to cook the fish in hot water. No, you want to make sure it's on the colder side. So you're going to add the lemon juice to the water and rub it around and rub it all over the fish, and then I'm going to add some more water to it, rub it again, and then pour off the water, add more water, and you're just going to want to wash the fish a couple times, and never forget to wash your fish or wash any type of meat. So this is definitely an important step, and wash your hands right after. So now that we've prepared our fish, we've cleaned it, we've washed it, we're going to season the fish. So I'm going to be using black pepper, salt, garlic powder, adobo, and I don't have any fish seasoning or any obey seasoning, but if I did, I would definitely use those. So for when I make fish, I like to put black pepper and sea salt um, inside the fish. So I'm gonna do put black pepper and salt all on the insides. And when I'm doing this, touching one hand with just the fish, then the other hand is going to be my dry hand where I'm touching the seasonings. You don't want to contaminate and touch the raw fish hands with the seasoning bottles. You don't want to do all of that. Please don't try to cross contaminate. Try to be ambidextrous and use both hands for two things. So after I add all the salt and the black pepper on the inside, then I'm just gonna rub rub this salt and the black pepper together to make sure it's all mixed around, because when I added it, it's not mixed around. So you're gonna want to do this for all of the fish. Just make sure everything is mixed around. So after I do this, then I'm going to wash my hands again because I'm going to have to add more seasoning to the fish. And like I said, you don't want to cross contaminate and add any use your raw hands and touch the bottles. Please don't do that. Wash your hands after. So after I wash my hand, after my hands is clean, then I'm just going to use one hand with the seasoning, the other hand with the fish, and put garlic powder all over the fish. Then I'm gonna put black pepper all over the fish because remember we only season the inside, so we have to season the outside. And then we're gonna use some adobo. So in at this part, if I did have any obe or any fish seasoning, this is when I would add that, and I would definitely not use the all-purpose seasoning. So, so use obe and some fish seasoning if you do have it. So after I do that, then I'm just going to marinate, mix all the seasonings on the fish to let it marinate. So when I mix it all over the fish, I'm also making sure those seasonings go on the slits on the outside of the fish. This is very important. So after I do that, rub everything around, and then you can put it in the fridge for a couple of hours before you fry. So now it's time to make our pickle while the fish is marinating. So I have the stove turned on to medium, and you're going to get a pot. And I'm just going to add some distilled white vinegar into the pot. So you're just going to want to have enough vinegar so it's going to cover um, all your ingredients that you did cut up earlier. So the first thing I'm gonna add is a Scotch bonnet pepper and then the carrots. And once the it starts boiling and the carrots get a little bit soft, then I'll add the onions. And I'm also adding some pimento seeds. And at this point in the process, it's going to be your eyes are going to start burning because the pepper is going to be hot. So just be prepared. So now the vinegar is boiling and the carrots is definitely al dente, and this is the point in the process that you are going to want to add your onions. The onions take really, really quick to cook, and this is why we're adding it last. And I forgot to mention, some people do add a little bit of sugar in this, but I personally don't add it, and personally don't even think you need to do all of that. This is perfectly fine, and you don't need no sugar, and you don't need to add no sugar to get sugar. Anyways, so we're gonna cover this up until now it's been about 2 minutes since I've added the onions, and it takes really quick to cook. You don't want it to be translucent. You want it to be still white, but on the verge of being translucent because you want, after we turn off the stove, the since the pot is going to be hot, it's going to continue cooking. You don't want it to be mush. So at this point in the process, the pickle is done. So I'm just going to cover it and leave it to when we need to use it at the end of the video. So now we're just going to get the frying pan that we're going to use to fry the fish, and we're going to add enough oil to the pot so it covers the fish. Not cover the fish completely. You can deep fry it, which is probably would be better, but I'm not gonna waste all that oil. So just add enough oil to fry the fish. So after I fry the fish, before we flip it, we're gonna want to uh, make sure that the fish is gonna be brown, and you're just gonna see the edge getting brown, and that's when you're gonna want to flip the fish. Don't flip it too early. So now you can see that the edges of the fish is definitely got brown. So this is when you know that it's time to flip the fish because you don't want it to burn. So you don't want it to get black, but you're just going to want it to be brown. And you can see that it's perfect on the other side. It has a nice golden brown color, and this is what we want. So if you follow my instructions, you'll never flip it too early, because if you try to flip it too early, you can also break apart the fish because it's just not ready to be flipped. So always wait till the edges are brown, and you're going to want to do the same thing before you flip it So it's
again.
been about 3 to 5 minutes, and as you can see, if you look around the edges, the other side is definitely brown, and this is the telltale sign that it's ready to flip. So after you take it out, you're going to want to put it into a container lined with paper towel, or you can put it on a rack. Because you don't want the fish to get soggy. So you're going to want to do that. And the fish doesn't need to cook for a whole bunch of minutes, and then you have to flip it again. No, fish takes a really, really short time to cook, so you don't need to do all that extra stuff. And if you do that, then the fish is just gonna dry out and it's gonna be hard, and you don't want any fish that's really, really dry. It doesn't taste good. It's like dry chicken breast. Who wants So at
that?
this point, all the fish is fried, and I'm just going to plate the fish. So what I like to do is I like to put some of the pickle at the bottom of the plate or whatever container you're going to have it in. And then I like to put the fish on top of it, because you see the pickle, the fish is going to get all the flavor of the pickle. So we're going to put the fish on top of it. And then after we do that, then we're going to add more pickle on top of the fish. And what I like to do is I like to add some of the pickled juice on top of the fish. And that's just personally what I like to do. And this is another way to infuse all that flavor inside the fish. So definitely try this. It's definitely a good step to try. Don't skip this step. So we're going to add more pickle on top of the fish, and we're just going to continue doing this. And this is how you layer it, and then just add more juice. So this is basically how the fish is looking, and it's definitely going to be delicious. And this fish is good eaten hot, or it's good eating cold. So try it.